Right, mate.
Are we?
I done. Finally done it, mate.
Taking us some time.
Hey,
It's taking some time.
how are you doing? How you doing?
You know, just
Just sit a little bit closer to it, mate.
oh, is that better?
Go on.
How you doing?
Good, mate. I'm good. Took me a fucking while to get here. That drive was a nightmare.
You love it, man. Don't even pretend that you didn't enjoy that.
So yeah, I mean, we're here, and you know, we've wanted to have the conversation about you and your life. So we'll start from the beginning, mate. You know, where you grew up, where you're from, what your hobbies, and we'll get to the point where you know you're an advocate for mental health. And I'll let you explain what your mental health advocation is and why, and we'll go from there, Paul.
No worries. Grew up in the northeast.
A bit closer.
Oh. Is that better?
Yeah.
Right. So grew up in the northeast. Obviously in County Durham. It was an all right kind of childhood, you know. Mum and dad split when I was young. That really had a big impact. Dad kind of moved south when what was that, about seven or eight. So obviously every summer I'd go and spend it down there with him. Didn't really get to spend much time with him as such. You know, I was always kind of stuck in the house, things like that. We used to go on holiday. Don't get me wrong. But I never also got to have a childhood. So for me, it was, I was just kind of sheltered from friends, you know, so my social aspect didn't kind of grow till I was in my teens. Yeah, so that for me is for a childhood. I wouldn't have said I'd want that for my own.
Yeah.
You know, because growing up in a broken home, it was passing pillar to post, you know. So it is what it is. You know, I kind of dealt with it as I got older. I vowed I wouldn't be in the same position as they were, but things happen in life. You know, relationships last, they don't last. It is what it is.
Yeah. I think that, you know, what you're saying there, it is what it is. To understand what that is, I think, is a really important part of what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, mine's very similar. I didn't have a great deal to do with my father. Probably see him once every 6 months, maybe, if that. But it's abandonment, right? As a child, you feel abandoned, whether that's by your mother or your father. You know, it's those questions. When we say it is what it is, we need to understand what is. So I had a lot of questions running around my head was why didn't he love me? Why wasn't he here? Why is my mother doing this to me? Why is my father doing this to me? And all these questions run around your head. And they're building blocks, you know, they're massive building blocks on us as humans, and the decisions that we take in life are all purely based around those experiences as a child. And
They say it's like character building.
yeah,
You know, you go through certain traumatic experiences as a child, and it kind of builds you as you get older.
but again, those experiences, they build us almost in a wrong way, you know. They build all these negative traits: insecurity, anxiety, worry, fear, pain. You know, we experience a lot of these emotions before we experience what love is, what happiness is. I think me and you were speaking the other day, and I was talking about how we as humans, we associate a lot more with negative aspects of life than we do positive.
Yeah.
You know, we'll always, if I said to you now, think of 10 bad things that have happened in your life, you'd go, bum, 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 bum.
Reel them off.
But if I said, think of 10 fantastic things that you've done, you'd have to think hard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would.
I could probably come up with 5 off the bat.
Yeah, but you'd have to think long and
10
hard.
straight off.
100%. And that's, you know, we grow up in this state of fight or flight. And this is the reason why this shit's happening.
There's not a lot of people out there who are forthcoming for wanting to open up.
Yeah.
You know, there's obviously a lot of men out there who think still to this day, I'm too manly. I don't need to open up. Don't need to talk. Best thing you can do is talk.
Yeah.
You know, but was it I said the other day online? There's that old saying, problem shared's a problem halved. You know, if you speak to somebody and you're open about it, you're never going to really be struggling on that problem again. You know, we've spoken on a few things before in the past, and it's really kind of helped me understand certain stuff of what I went through. You know, some of the really traumatic kind of things that I did go through as like in my teens, and for me, that was I definitely wouldn't wish that on anybody. So, but yeah,
When we talk about traumatic experiences, you don't have to go into detail of anything that you don't want to. But do you want to share anything?
well, obviously, growing up, obviously not having me dad there, you know, my mum working all the time that she did. You know, she was like working 2 jobs, and I can't take anything away from my mum. You know, she worked the finger to the bone to provide. You know, for me, it was more so I would have just preferred to have had her attention and her love more so than having things. You know, hence why I kind of went off the rails a little bit as I grew up. Never kind of got into serious bother with the law or anything like that. I kind of got arrested once when I was like 12. I was just in with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of took myself out of that situation because that wasn't the life that I wanted to kind of be involved in. So I kind of kept that circle of friends to one side, you know, kept me at arm's length, but I didn't kind of go back and get myself into more trouble.
Yeah. So again, you've got the same as me. You've got that emotional abandonment by both parents, almost. Even though your mum's there, you're living with your mum. You don't feel necessarily that she's present in your life because she's out, you know, working to keep fucking food on the table. You know, and I think the most important thing a child needs in life is the love and attention of the people who are supposed to look after you.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that I always had an issue with, was the 2 people that were supposed to love me and take care of me were the 2 people that caused me the most pain
Yeah.
in the world.
I think we're quite similar as well, though, because obviously you were quite close to your grandma, weren't you?
Grandparents.
You know what I mean? Because my nana was literally like my best friend.
Yeah.
You know, whenever I used to go and see her, she taught me how to write when I was a kid. She was the first person that we kind of went to when I had an accident when I was younger. You know, and I ripped my knee to bits and straight with the Dettol, straight over. You know, when I wasn't even bothered about telling my dad when I smoked. You know, my mama wasn't really bothered about her, but it was the fact that I had to tell me nana. So obviously, you can kind of imagine Irish Catholic. You know, she had 14 kids. Nothing could get past that. Nothing could get past that woman, mate. Nothing. You know, and so obviously we went down there one day. And my mum goes, "Right, go and tell your nana." Not saying nothing. And she went, "You're going to tell her?" And then when I told her, she kind of go one of these. As soon as I took a crack with a stick right across my leg, tell you what, that woman, mate, she taught me how to bake. She taught me how to cook from a young age. You know, and I'm going like literally sage and onion stuffing right from the start. Every little herb that you think about, she had in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, she used to always cook, and I always remember going in the house and all the ever used to smell was the sage and stuffing.
Mm.
You know, so it was always nice to go into my nana's, but I never always used to get the opportunity because there was family members there. You know, and we kind of didn't get on. There was always a lot of drama. Just didn't want the drama.
Yeah.
Hated it. Hated it.
Did she have the gunslinging slipper?
No, she definitely had that John Wayne accuracy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
My nana used to kick fuck out of me with a slipper. My granddad, mate, he hit me once in my whole life, smacked my ass once when I was about 12, 13, maybe around that age. But I asked for some cornflakes. And he's one of them fellas. Feed him on to me nana. Feed him, love. He's a big, strong lad. And I asked for cornflakes one day. I was watching. I remember it clear as day. Friday night, getting ready for WWE Raw.
Yeah.
And I said, "Can I have some cornflakes?" And he brought them in. I said, "Oh, I don't want them now." And as he took them back in, I said, "Go on then, I'll have them." And then I changed my mind again. He said, change your mind once more, see what happens. And I remember, mate, he spat on his hand, across the arse cheeks. Fucking. I couldn't sit down for 3 days, mate. My arse cheeks were black. And
It's funny you mentioned, obviously, about sitting watching WWE Raw.
Yeah.
Because we used to literally, when I used to go to my nana's on a Friday, we used to sit and watch the wrestling. You know, because obviously my mum would go out. No, it wasn't a Friday, sorry, it was a Saturday. When my mum used to go out to the pubs and things like that. And we used to literally sit there. And I used to get there about midnight, and I'm drifting off and I'm falling asleep. And my uncle, because he used to still live with my nana, he used to kind of torment us and wake us up. Obviously, I'd be falling asleep, then all of a sudden I just get this flick straight on my forehead. And I'm just like, you're a fucking... You know what I mean? But it's them moments and them memories that you kind of make, and you kind of look back and go, I used to love that.
I'd give anything for one of them moments again.
Oh, mate, 100%. I'd give it anything to have a conversation with my nana. You know, sit and have a cigarette with her, have a cup of tea, and just say, look, what should I do here?
Yeah.
You know, that was one woman who was literally a fountain of knowledge. Nothing could get past her. You know, and like I said, she had 14 kids. There's not one thing that woman hadn't already seen that you could pull the wool over her. Not one.
So going into your teens then, you know, what was the most difficult part then about growing up through your teenage years? Obviously, your mother and father splitting up. We don't know we've got no guidance really, have we, outside? And for me, it was, you know, friends. You'd join the wolf pack mentality, if you like, and you'd find the love and caring, appreciation that you needed in people, right? In your friends. Family was not really somewhere where I went to for connection. You know, it was chaos in my family, and friends and drugs were where I went to. That was my escape. That was where I found peace, really.
That's just it. Obviously, for me, it was kind of the friends I had around me became my family.
Just put that a little bit closer, mate.
So it's like from the age of, say if I was 12, you know, I was kind of in with this one crowd, and every day after school, straight out, you know, didn't give two shits about my flipping education at the time. Used to get from school, get changed, go straight out, and I'd be out to like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I never really got involved with substances as such till I was like 14, you know. And I think it kind of got to the point because I was trying to block certain things out.
Yeah.
So I've never really spoken about it. So when I was, I want to say 13, and I used to stay at a family member's house. I used to go on a Thursday when my mum used to go out the darts. Or that was like her one social event a week. So she used to go to darts on a Thursday, and then on a weekend I'd either go back there or go to my nana's. And when I used to go there, that was kind of when certain things used to happen, and that's what kind of started to break me as a person. I think that's when I've spoken to the doctors in the past, obviously like me shrinks and things like that, and tried unlocking Pandora's box, trying to get some answers as to why mentally and emotionally I was so detached from relationships in the past.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, where do I start? And they're like, well, let's go back to your childhood. So having to relive some of their moments, kind of, I didn't want to open it and go back through it. But then when I have, it's like, shit, this stuff really messed me up more than what I realized, you know? And it was actually seeing somebody else's podcast, being able to speak open about it, which kind of, for me, was like, it doesn't matter how big and tough you are. If you've gone through something, you need to be able to open and honest about it. So in my teens, I was physically abused. I've explained this to my dad. I haven't told him who it was or anything like that. But I'm sure by the time this comes out that they'll understand who it was now. You know. Yeah, so that kind of really fucked me up a lot. And even to this day, I just wish my brother had still been there and not been down south, you know, growing up, because I know he wouldn't have let nothing ever have come of it. And I hated going there. I used to enjoy seeing a couple of my cousins, but I hated being there, you know. And the person who did it was never showed any remorse for his action, you know, never showed any remorse. And when I had my mental breakdown and I kind of went back up north, I wanted to face them demons, and I still couldn't do it then. You know, I couldn't kind of go face to face with them and things like that, because I just like, if I see you, I want to smash your fucking face in, mate. You know, and for me, it's kind of like, if I do that, then in a roundabout way, I'm just as bad as what he is. You know, if I physically punch somebody, then in my head, I'm saying to myself, well, I'm still on the same par as him, because obviously I'm putting my hands on somebody. You know, and I'm trying to teach people these days, when it comes to obviously judo, you know, I'm trying to teach them the right way of life. I don't want kids going down the paths that I went down to feel like they've got no one to speak to. You know, I never wanted to put anything on my mum, didn't want to put anything on my dad. I couldn't really speak to my brother because he was always busy, he was working, you know, he had his own life to live. I wasn't as close to my sister as probably what I am now.
Why do you think that was?
Just because we never really spoke, you know. I mean, you look at me and my sister and the way we are, and it's just like, fucking hell, you two are absolutely nut jobs.
Yeah.
You know, because we'll be in the same room and I'll say, oh, fuck off, dickhead. You know, it's that constant banter with me and my sister. And for 8 years, we didn't have any of that, because there was a lot of issues that went on in my past relationship that prevented that, you know, which kind of really screwed up a lot of things. Which I do regret, because my sister is literally, she is my best friend. You know, she knows a lot about me. She knows a lot from my past. She knows obviously the stuff that I kind of went through. And she's been literally a rock, you know. So, Charlene, if you're seeing this, I do love you to bits, and thank you for being there, you know.
See, that got you a bit emotional, mate.
Just a little bit.
That's good. It's good though. Good. You know, the fact that you've had a lot of time where you and your sister haven't got on. It's good what you're feeling there now. That's good.
It's hard, because obviously when you hide everything and you mask everything for so long, and you detach yourself from emotions, you struggle to kind of understand what certain emotions are. And that's what I've come to terms with lately, especially since obviously doing the things that I've been doing on social media, you know, trying to advocate for men's mental health. You know, I don't want people to kind of sit there and sit in silence. It's the biggest killer out there. You know, you sit in silence and it's eating away at you. And I don't want another man to kind of go through that.
How nice does that feel, that emotion you've just felt there about your sister? I know it's emotional
It
to
is
the point
nice.
where you're upsetting, but at the core of it, right, it's love. At the root core of what you're feeling there, it's love. And that's what you've
100%.
got to understand, right? There's a difference. There's a fine line between like pain and love, and they'll walk the same line together sometimes.
Yeah.
But what you're feeling there, feed off that, right? With your purpose, when we talk about purpose, that's what you feed off.
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't understand that feeling. People never get to experience that feeling.
Yeah.
And that's important, right? Without that there, what you've just felt, life's empty. Life's soulless. You've got it about Georgia now as well.
Yeah.
Who's playing Steven Spielberg behind the camera. But, you know, without that there, we become vessels for whatever, our environment, you know? We become soulless. There's a book by Gabor Mate called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. And it talks about these, in Buddhism, they're ghosts and they've got long necks and massive bellies and they can never fill their bellies. And that's how he describes addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with emotion, you know, without it, we're soulless. and we feed off whatever's around us. You know, we become symbiotes, like Venom of Spider-Man. You feed off whatever's around you, and that's a very dangerous place to be. And it's only when you can feel that, what you just felt there, that you really find.
It's like you find
love.
a peace.
Yeah, man.
You know, it's kind of like it gets to a certain point where you need to let go, so you can feel that inner peace.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously in order to grow, you got to cut a little bit of piece of yourself off.
Yeah.
You know, Tom Hardy said it well. You know, because Charlie Bronson gave that little line
Cut
to him.
it off.
It wouldn't have happened to me. I would have said, "Cut it off."
Yeah, but yeah, I totally agree with you, and it's that message is something that I've resonated a lot with myself. You know, you have got to cut pieces of yourself off in order to grow, but at the same time, that piece will grow back.
100%.
But it grows back stronger, more beautiful, more pleasurable. You know, and that's the beauty of life, right? Some things are meant to stay, some things aren't.
Yeah.
Same with emotions. You can only experience one emotion at one time. You can't be happy and sad at the same time.
It's impossible.
So, you know, that's the beauty. This is what I talk about. It's fucking beautiful, mate. That emotion there where you try to keep it in. Let it out. Fucking let it out. Who gives a fuck?
This is just it, you know. It's like I keep saying to other people, the best thing you can do is speak about it.
Yeah.
You know, I was on medication for a long time, you know, for depression. Obviously, as I got older, I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Then obviously last year I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which was all linked to what I went through in teens. Now, when it comes to taking medication, I can't put that in my body anymore. I was doing it for a long time. You know, I was on quetiapine.
Why?
Because I had nothing. You know, I couldn't feel. I was like a zombie. You know, taking quetiapine to start me off on 50 milligram, and then they took me all the way up to 500. I was a walking zombie. I had no emotion. I had no oomph.
A vessel.
I had nothing.
A vessel.
Literally, no vessel, nothing. I was a walking shell. I hated it. Hated feeling like that.
If you could say one thing to that, your family member, whoever it was, don't have to go into detail of what it was. If you could say one thing to him now, what would it be? With everything you know now and everything you've experienced, experience it now, here in the present.
Apart from telling him that he's a cunt. Truthfully, I've got nothing to say to him. You know, he took away my innocence. You know, and that's how I truly feel. He took away my innocence.
That's probably the best answer you could give, is nothing, because that means you've truly let go of the emotion attached to it.
I've had to.
Well, no, good.
For me to grow as an individual and as a person, I've lived it. I've suffered with it. You know, I've kind of had to deal with things in my own way. And I've got to the point now where for me to grow, I've had to cut that piece off. You know, I managed to deal with it. I've managed to overcome certain obstacles. And now it's kind of got to the point where my life's to be lived. You know, I can't sit there and keep myself dragged back in the past. Not healthy.
It's definitely not healthy. I always say depression's thinking of the past. Oh, fuck. I'll edit that. Depression is thinking about the past. Anxiety is worrying about the future. That's the way I see it. And a lot of the work I'm doing now is about being present and mindful and experiencing today rather than worrying about tomorrow. Powerful, man. Powerful. How long we got, Georgia? 5 minutes. Yeah, so we'll talk a bit about judo then for the last 5 minutes. Black belt.
It took me a long time to get to it.
Yeah.
I actually got into judo, funnily enough, when I was in a dark hole. You know, kind of came for me at the right time. Was it just after my brother had passed? Yeah, it was just after my brother passed away. And I was in such a bad mental place. And an old friend of mine turned around and said, "Look, should we go and give this a try?" And I was like, yeah. And because obviously I'd done MMA, you know, when I used to live in Durham, done MMA, done like no-gi jiu-jitsu, things like that. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's go. I went there, and I was like 30 stone at the time. You know, I ballooned massively. You know, so I went there and thought, I fucking like this. You know, throw people around, you don't get the shit for it. You know, it's all controlled. You get obviously taught the correct ways. And for me, it was like something clicked,
Yeah.
you know. And after a month, I was promoted to yellow belt, and then it just progressed, massively progressed. And
How's it feel to achieve that black belt?
I cried my eyes out.
Good.
Not gonna lie, I actually cried because for me that was a full circle moment because I got awarded my downgrade in the club where I originally started.
Yeah.
Obviously we travelled all the way down south for the competition, and I had to do obviously my kata, and I had to do more than others because there were certain things that I couldn't adapt with. You know, obviously being up here and the hierarchy all being down south and what have you, it was kind of like I didn't get as much coaching towards
Yeah.
my kata and all my techniques and things that I needed to do for that. So they kind of like, right, well, just do a couple of extra things so we know where you're at with all your techniques and your syllabus and what have you. So I was like, yeah, all right. And so I ended up doing all my throws, my techniques and things like that. And obviously I had, was it three or maybe five techniques that I had to demonstrate and how I would do it in a class. And then the next day I had to fight, and going into the competition, I then had to do refereeing at the start. But I thought completely the day before I'd just fucked it. I completely thought I'd fucked it. I thought, I'm not getting my back, you know. And then on the Sunday, we were told there was 5 people. You know, there was me and 4 others, and then we get there, and then we find out there was just 2 of us. The other 3 didn't bother turning up. You know, there was no explanation as to why they weren't there or anything like that. So I had to fight someone who was an old teammate. I had to fight him 3 times.
I think I've seen it, yeah.
You know, I love that lad to bits. So James, if you're watching this, mate, it's always love.
Yeah.
You know, with that lad, he don't know what it is, but that he got so strong. Over the years, he's got massively strong and it's scary. I couldn't move him. I couldn't do nothing. You know, but then to fight him and get my downgrade, and what really, really pissed me off is in the open, I had to fight again in the open, and then he caught me with a beautiful takedown, and then because he obviously caught me with a little trip, and as he landed, his elbow went in my ribs. So I was like, ugh! And then I kind of bench pressed him up, and then as I bench pressed him, I went to move my hips, but he shifted his weight, then he landed back down with his elbow in the same place in my ribs, and I went, for fuck's sake, James! And the next minute, the referee stopped it, disqualified me. I was like, fuck. Only happened to me. Just get your downgrade and then get disqualified in the open. I was like, what a bastard.
If you could explain your achievement in judo in 1 or 2 words, what would it be? Values. How do you value it?
It was a hobby that turned into a lifestyle.
Lifestyle choice.
It's pure and simple. You know, it's a way of life.
Right, Cecil. How do you
Hey
think
up,
that
Shag.
went? How did that go? How do you feel?
Oh, all right.
Yeah?
Felt better than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know?
I think as soon as you settle down and feel comfortable with what you're saying, you know, it's not as... And the thought's always worse than reality, isn't it?
Oh, mate, 100%.
Always.
And if you kind of like, if you got things written down, you kind of like, yeah, well, this kind of happened then. And
I don't bother with writing stuff down because it just doesn't look human. You know, it looks robotic.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say the same thing. It's like you're going out all robotic.
Yeah. So I wanted to speak about your brother, mate. Obviously, you said that he passed.
Yeah.
I won't mention what you mentioned before when I walked in. You describe him and explain who he was and how he passed in your own words.
Oh, mate, he was life and soul of the party. You know, he was your modern day Del boy. You know, literally, mate.
My type of guy.
Oh, mate, he had the gift of the gab.
Yeah.
You know, he could sell sand to the Arabs. You know, he could sell ice to the Eskimos. Anything and everything. He'd buy a car for 150 quid. He'd flip it and sell it for $2,000.
Yeah.
You know, I remember my dad rang us one day. Like, you still need a car? I was like, yeah. He went, I've got a 106. I was like, right. He went, 150 quid. I said, Dad, I want the money at the minute. 2 hours later, young'un, what? Got to buy a car. What car is it? It's 106. How much you want for that? He went, oh, because the Judo's 500 quid. I was like, you cheeky cunt. I was like, my dad just rang us and asked us about the same car, man, 150 quid. Yeah, well, if you want it, it's there 500 quid. I thought, you fucking robbing bastard.
What was he? How did he pass then?
They ruled it an accidental overdose.
Oh, fucking hell.
He was suffering with his mental health, funnily
Was
enough.
he, yeah?
But obviously he'd been going through a knee surgery aftermath. Obviously mixing the antidepressants with the medication that he was on, and he'd done a cycle of steroids and his own kind of issues that he was dealing with his addiction.
Yeah.
They all just loosened and weakened the muscles around his heart. So obviously when I got the phone call that night, it fucking broke me again. You know.
I think people don't realise how fortunate they are because, again, I'm the same. I've been in addiction. I've took steroids. I've abused my body, and you know, when you look at it from a scientific point of view, a lot of us should be fucking dead. We should, and I don't want to say it in that way because obviously it's your brother, and but those things happen. This is proof that we're not indestructible.
We're not invincible. Not one of us are invincible.
No.
You know, and one thing me and him used to talk about when we were younger is every time he kind of got in the car, whenever he put his seatbelt on, he crashed. It was weird. I'm not even joking. I remember he bought a car in the northeast, and he had it 3 weeks, and he was taking one of his ex-girlfriends to work one morning, and as he was turning into this road, as soon as he got in the car, he put his belt on. He said something didn't feel right that morning, and he put his belt on, and which for him was weird. You know, whenever you got in the car with me, brother, you'd always say, why you not got your belt on? Nah, it restricts us. And he used to have a certificate off the doctor, which exempted him from wearing his seatbelt.
No way.
Honest to God, mate, no bullshit. My dad can even explain this and clarify it. But he put his belt on that morning and he crashed. And he was fucking devastated because he loved that car. You know, it was only a little Fiesta, but it was one of them sporty ones.
Yeah.
Back in the day, this. And he was fucking gutted. You know, he's more worried about his missus at the time and his car than what he was about himself. But he was like the cat with 9 lives. You know, the amount of times he'd crashed. You know, he rolled a Vectra several times into a field. Mate, he went back to the car, got his head unit out, and got his fucking flag off the bare parcel shelf. And he's like, still here. And he used to have these scars up his arm. And I remember we went in the Metro Centre one day, and you're going to watch this. We were with my mum, and he had this little card, right? They used to set off all the alarms when you walk out the shops. He got this card, flipped it around in his wallet, put his wallet back in his pocket. He went, watch. And as we were walking out the shop, the alarms were kind of going off. I think it was the Newcastle store, funnily enough. And this girl went, oh, can you just wait there a minute? He went, it's all right. And he pulled his sleeve. He said, I was in Nam. I was like, you dickhead. Well, you're too fucking young for Vietnam, you silly twat.
He'd have to be in his fucking 50s or 60s.
Oh, mate. He was, but like I said, he literally was the life and soul of the party. You know.
What did he mean to you? What did your brother, older brother?
My brother, yeah, he was my best mate growing up.
Was he? Yeah.
You know, even though he was, obviously, he lived down south for the years that I was growing up, but we used to be so close when we were kids, and then kind of getting older. Obviously, yes, we had that distance between us, but I could speak to him about anything. You know, we arranged for like my mum's birthday. We surprised her with a birthday party one year, and nobody knew he was coming up except for me. And I said, look, this is where we're having it. You know, I know she's going to absolutely love it if you can get there. I'll be there, no problem at all. And I was like, right, is he going to fucking turn up? Is he not going to turn up? And as soon as he turned up, my mum's in tears, you know, because she wasn't expecting him to turn up for it. And she's like, "Who the fucking hell arranged that?" I said, "There you go, happy birthday." You know, so it's nice when you can do things like that. And we did a similar thing for my dad. One of his birthdays, you know, because he hadn't had all three of his kids in the same room one year, and he hadn't had none of us together for his birthday for fucking a long time.
Yeah.
And obviously we all got our heads together and said, "Look, this is where we're going to be." And I was living in the northeast. So I was like, "Look, I'm going to drive down. I'll meet you there." So we drove down, and my brother and sister were in the flat with my dad. And I just remember parking the car up, and I think my dad had gone to the toilet, and I'd ran around the front, seeing that he wasn't in, so I hopped over the little balcony that he's got. So I hopped over, and I went and sat on the sofa, and he came back in, and he just burst into tears. "The fuck are you crying for? You're all here." I was like, "Well, it's your fucking birthday, innit?" So there's a photo of all three of us sat with me dad. You know, it's like me here, me dad there, me brother there, and then me sister on the floor. And then not one picture have you got a serious face on my brother, because he always was the jester. You know, he was the eldest one, and he was always just like dicking around. It was the times with him when he was here, the good times were fucking unreal. You know, I remember when I used to work at Butlins, back in the day, he rang us one day, "Can you get me on site?" "Yeah, yeah." Well, got him on site, and we went to the karaoke bar. And next minute, I know my name's getting called out to get on the karaoke. I thought, "The fuck? I'm putting my name on this." And he just looked and he smiled and was like, "Go on, crack on." Next minute, I know, there's me up on the stage singing "Under the Moon and Love" by fucking Shawadi Wadi. So, to narrow that down as well, so when he was born, my dad actually named him after every member of Shawadi Wadi. His first two names, Andrew and John, came from my grandparents, you know, my two granddads. And then the rest of his name was all Shawadi Wadi band members. And if I remember rightly, the priest thought that he was named after a football team. And my dad was like, "Nope." "Why?"
What's his full name, man?
So his full name is Andrew John Malcolm Trevor Rod Dave Russ Buddy Al Romeo Brown. That's his full name. That's what's on his birth certificate. The lot. And when he was actually in the newspaper,
that would be, wouldn't it?
Mate, when he wrote his names down on his GCSEs, they ripped the paper up and said, "Go and do it again." Honest to God. He was on Esther Ranson's show and everything about his name.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was funny as fuck. And my sister was meant to have a middle name, but he's the best thing. My dad could remember how to spell it, but he could remember how to spell my brother's.
Yeah, bet you could. If you could say one thing to him now, what would it be? One thing.
I wouldn't say anything. I'd put my arms around him. No. I'd definitely stick my arms around him and give him a massive cuddle and just tell him how much he missed.
Yeah, that's what you say to him. It's important, that, right? It's important to feel these things.
I'd give anything for a conversation with him again.
Would you?
100%.
Good.
Even just one more day, just fucking around.
Mm.
You know, the last time I walked through the town centre where he used to live, I could hear his voice, and I know he's not there, but I could hear him. It's like walk through, and I just hear "Youngin," and I'm like, the mind plays some fucked up tricks on you. You know, it's like I still speak to a few of his old friends and what have you, and they become like my family. You know, they become like friends. You know, one of his best friends, Colin. I get a random message every now and again. "How you doing, brother?" "Yeah, I'm good."
Yeah.
You know, he reaches out. I ask him how he is. And him and my brother used to just be inseparable. You know, and yeah, he's massively missed by everyone, especially me mum and me dad.
Nice, man. BPD.
Yes.
Take it away.
So I was diagnosed with it about 5 years ago now. And I didn't know what the fuck it was.
Yeah.
You know, borderline personality disorder, also known as emotionally unstable personality disorder. It's one of those that not many people understand it. And for me, it took me a long time to be able to understand what was kind of going on in my head.
Yeah.
And it kind of got to the point where I was so closed off from a lot of things and a lot of people. You know, socially, I wouldn't go out. I'd be angry all the time, or I'd be upset. I'd be higher than a kite, you know, and on life. Um, at one minute I'm happy, next minute I'm sad, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on with me? I didn't understand it. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And then when I got, let me see, I think I got suicidal one day to the point where I was just like, what's the fucking point? And then my ex had said, you either go and get help or that's it. So went and got the help, and then I got diagnosed with BPD. I'm like, right, so I got a label. What do I do now? And then they put me on all these different medications, you know. I'd been on the medication for depression all the way throughout my teens. Um, well, no, not my teens. My late teens, I was on the antidepressants, and then kind of getting to grips with, now I've got to try this medication. Now I've got to try that medication, and I got to the point where I was just like, I'm putting this stuff in my body, and I don't know what the fuck it's doing to me because it's not making me feel happy, you know. And the last straw for me was when they put me onto quetiapine, and they said, right, you're going to start off on the 50 milligram, and you're going to work up to 500. Be all right, and so I started off one day 52, build all the way up to the 500, and I was fucking on me. I was a zombie, you know. I was a shell of myself. Um, I was putting weight on like it was going on rapidly, and I hated it. I was like, I can't do this. You know, and I got to the point where I just went cold turkey off the meds, and I was like, I'm not taking this shit no more. You know, my ex was telling me, yeah, well, you've got nothing. You're doing this, and you're not doing that, and you're not doing this. You're not even here in the head. And I'm just like, well, you're the one that told me go and get the help. So I went and got the help. They've put me on this medication, and now you're flipping it around on me. I'm just like, I can't win. So that was fucking me up even more. And it's really been the last kind of 6 months that I've looked into the science behind the BPD, you know, and obviously working with you the past few weeks and the past couple of months, obviously going over the neurological science behind it and things like that, and understanding what part of the brain it is that kind of is affected, and kind of where that Pandora's box was unlocked, and it's all stemming back to the childhood trauma, you know, and I don't want another person to go through what I went through. So if I can do anything, so no one has to sit in silence. You know, I don't want someone to sit there and tell me they're on this medication because it's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
You know, and I know one of my friends who is on the same medication, and for me, I'm like, get off it. It will make you just feel numb. It will make you feel like a zombie, and then like that's exactly how I feel. I said, stop taking it. I said, I'm not a professional, but please stop fucking taking it. Well, what should I do? What should I do? I said, speak. Best thing you can do, and I've found this out personally, is fucking talk. If you've got something on your chest, I tell you what, I would rather be speaking now than be attending a friend's funeral next week. You know, if you're in such a bad place and you think medication's a weird thing again, you know, reach out, put your arm out. I got to the point in November where I didn't put my arm out. I didn't want to kind of reach out. You know, I kind of went through a real fucking bad mental breakdown. And I was at that stage where I was done. You know, I tried to hang myself in November. Um, and miraculously the fucking rope undone. And that for me is a reason I'm still here. You know? And after going to see a couple of spiritualists and seeing a medium, and to find out that they don't know shit, right? And a lot of people will speculate, yeah, but they must know something. They knew nothing. You know, they describe the person to me to a T, and that I've always said I'll believe it when I see it. And from what this person described to me and how they described him and what they said to me, nobody knew. Not one person. The only people who knew that was family members. And for him to turn around and describe my stepdad to a T, I'm like, what the fuck? You know, always sat on the sofa with his feet up. There was always something on the TV. And they were telling me they could see red shirts. Well, he was a Liverpool fan. And he used to always sit in my house, feet up on the footstool, never used to move out that seat. He'd always watch the football every single day. And that, I was like, he's the reason I'm still alive.
I think, you know, as far as medication goes, there's this big, again, we've spoke about my opinions on a lot of it. Don't get me wrong, when it comes to like schizophrenia and a lot of these, I'm not taking away anything from what you've got, because obviously it's your trauma, it's your identity, right? But when it comes with the severe brain, the injured brains, yours is more emotional, right? Yours is trauma, and that's how it's stored, but through emotions, isn't it? I think the most important thing, like you said there, is to educate. And with the NHS, they medicate and don't educate. Go and take these, come and see me again in 4 weeks. Why not say, go and take these, but this is X, Y, and Z that you could do to benefit yourself. They don't.
They don't. There's no help.
Yeah, because of the money. It's
the
fine.
NHS, for me, I see it as it's a money pit.
Of course it is.
You know?
Of course it is.
And they're like, right, go and take them. You go a 4-week course. Take them, come see me, and let me know how you feel.
Well, I mean, COVID...
I'm still going to feel the fucking same.
Yeah. COVID proved to me exactly what the agenda of Big Pharma is. They genuinely don't give two fucks for me or you.
They don't give two fucks about anybody.
It's all about money. So, and that was one of the big inspirations behind me going, right, let's educate yourself here. And because we're everyday men, right? I come from the slums, I come from a council estate.
Same as me.
I know what neuroscience is now. I understand the process of a neurological cell in the brain under the influence of addiction. Yeah. And I've done all that.
Would you have thought you'd understand that when you were a kid?
Fucking hell, I'd have said, shut up, you knobhead. You know what I mean? But 6 months into this educational journey, I've got my history, I've got my background, and that's what feeds this.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff I've learned, and you're like, there's so much you can do for yourself.
Mate.
And make yourself better within 24 hours, not 6 months, not 12 months, in a day. And it's important.
Something, I think about a week ago on one of your lives with us, we were talking about something, and somebody else had come in, and obviously you and him were talking. I'm just like, this shit really fucking makes sense, And for me, I was just like, I'm sat there and I'm just like, how the fuck can someone be such a fountain of knowledge and take all this in, yet still have his daily struggles? And for me, it's just like...
The problem is, but it's not a problem. When you say daily struggles, right, like I said before, you can't experience two emotions at once. We can't fix ourselves and go, I'm going to be happy all the time now. But every day now, I'm going to wake up and everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
You still got it. Same with physical health. You lose weight, you put weight on. You eat good food, you eat shit food. It's the same with the mental aspect. Some days you wake up. I get it now. Last week I had one day I thought, don't feel good today. What shall I do? I'm going to lie on the bed for a few hours and read a book on the brain. Then I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to watch a bit of TV. And then I might go for a walk. That's it. That's my day.
Yeah.
Don't have to overcomplicate it now. Because, 12 months ago I'd have gone, I need to go to the gym and cold water and fucking go outside and do this and do that. Nah, relax. Chill out. If you're having a bad day, simplify the fuck out of it. And that's the most important bit of advice I was ever given when I started this by that guy in Dublin. And he said, keep it simple. Simplicity is the key to neuroplasticity in the brain, improving the method of how your brain works. Because when you overthink, what comes from overthinking? People relapse. Yeah. People sadly take their own lives. They end up having a row with a girlfriend, or they'll end up falling out with their kids. There's nothing beneficial about it. So when you overthink, strip it all back and go, right, what shall I do today that's going to make me feel good? I might watch a film, lie on the sofa for 4 hours and watch a film. No problem.
I did that the other day.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
Literally, it was one of them days, and I was just, when like you said before, you when it's one of them days. And I laid on the sofa and I just watched fucking Tulsa King for hours.
Well, the most important part about it all is you've noticed it and you've recognised it, you've understood it, and you've dealt with it. Whereas, especially me, take myself for instance, 3 years ago, I'd have just gone and blown my brains out in the Swan in the pub.
Yeah.
I'd have drank all day, took drugs all day, and just fucking exploded all over everyone. Whereas now, I learned to understand that you've got this nuclear reaction in your hand and you just make it smaller through the day.
But
by the time you go to bed, throw it in the bin, done. And that's the way I see it now. I understand that I've got to make this ball. I picture it in my head. I've got a ball in my hands that's this big in the morning. And by the time I get to the evening, I've got to
Mhm.
make sure it's dead small.
Yeah.
And then on my way to bed, on my way up the stairs, I'd throw it in the bed. Done.
But see, well, after my mental breakdown, I started like that journey again. I kind of said to myself every morning, I'm going to set myself 3 goals.
That's it.
3 in the morning, get them done. That's a win.
Yeah.
Get to the afternoon, have another 3 goals set. Get them done. That's another win. No matter when you wake up and you think, right, it's a shit day. I'm going to lose all day. No, you're not. Set yourself 3 stupid, silly little goals. Get up, make your breakfast,
Yeah.
make your bed,
Yeah. Clean your teeth.
brush your teeth, wash your
Yeah.
face. And there's 5 there.
That's it.
That's a win. You're still breathing.
Yeah.
You're putting one foot in front of another. That's a fucking win.
A lot of people say, "Oh, I couldn't even wash the dishes." Fine, just wash the cups.
I fucking wash them every day.
Just you know what I mean? Though, simplify it. I can't be bothered doing all this cleaning today. All right, just hoover then, or wash the cups, or wash the plates. That's it. Tomorrow, do it again. Make it simple. People, we overcomplicate the smallest thing when we're struggling, and it's easy for me to sit here and say this. Well, it's not easy because I've been through it all. So it's been hard. So it's never going to be easy to say. But now I can say it with conviction that when you're struggling, keep it fucking simple.
Yeah.
And again, there's these grounding techniques, or like this NLP training I'm learning now, learning to control emotions through action in the brain. It's mega stuff, mate. And I wish everybody knew. Well, I'm a beginner in it myself, but I wish everybody knew the stuff that I'm learning, because
you know what I wish? That it was easier for people to access it on the NHS.
Yeah.
If things like this is accessible, chances are the statistics would be lower. People wouldn't have to worry about, I can't get in to see the doctor, so I can't get my medication. Well, go and fucking study. Go and take yourself somewhere. Go and get your computer out. Go and fucking study.
Yeah.
Understand why your brain's going the way that it's going. Understand why you're overthinking things. Understand why everything's in your mind's all overcomplicated. I wish I did back then.
Yeah. How long we got, Georgia? 6 minutes. I want to finish off speaking about your daughter for a couple of minutes, and then I've got one important question to ask you at the end. So just take the next few minutes to talk about your daughter.
Well, obviously you got my eldest daughter. I'm obviously my youngest one. My eldest one, obviously she lives down south with her mum. She's just done a SAT this week, bless her little heart. We got a phone call yesterday, 2 days ago. I think it was yesterday afternoon. Basically telling me that she just finished her SAT and things like that. And obviously all her school was going to Disneyland, but she didn't want to go. But she went, "Dad, guess what?" I said, "What?" She went, "I got it." "What have you got?" And then she showed me the hoodie that she got. She got a Leavers hoodie. And I was just like, that's banging. For her to have this big old smile on her face. I said, "Are you ready for high school?" She went, "Not really." I said, "Why?" She went, "I don't know." I said, "Exactly, you've got no reason to understand why." I said, "Are all your friends going?" She went, "No." So me and George just sat there and explained to her that it gives her that opportunity to start and grow.
Yeah.
Because you're not with that same crowd of people. Now you're going to be making new friends. It's a whole new social kind of environment for her and a new educational place. So she's kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
And that kid's so humble.
Yeah.
It's unreal. She really is humble.
Yeah. And then obviously you've got your youngest daughter who you're struggling to see at the moment.
Yeah, that's a tough one at the minute. 4 months now, not being able to see her. And
it must be tough, that, mate.
It's kind of broke me a bit.
Yeah.
I know obviously my ex has spouted certain things to other people about what
Still
happens,
doesn't
but
change
the truth is the truth will prevail.
Yeah.
My daughter knows how much I love her. She knows how much she means to me. That for me.
That's the most important part, right?
Exactly.
That's the most important part.
I can't sit here and say it's been easy, because it hasn't. Mentally it's been one of those where it's either going to break me or it's going to keep me stronger. The other night it did break me down a bit.
But again, it's noticing those bad nights, right? Notice it.
Do you know what it is? I even turned out to George and said, "Can you do me a favour?" She went, "What?" She went, "You're not right." I said, "No, can you just grab me a teddy?"
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, mate.
Literally, I laid in that bed and I cried my eyes out and I had all of her teddy, and I was like, I miss that kid so much. From being there for every single day to seeing her once a week to then having nothing.
I feel your pain, mate. Mine's very similar. My son lives with me again now full time, but for 3 or 4 years, I was probably see him once a week or once every 2 weeks, and it's horrible.
It's torture.
Yeah, and my daughter, she comes to mind 3 days a week at the moment, but she's going to school in Liverpool from September, which is going to be tough because some weeks I might not be able to see her, and I see her every week at the moment. I've got one more question, and then we're done, mate. 4 people sat round a dinner table from the past, family, anybody, whoever, who would they be? 4 answers. You don't need to go into detail. Just hit me with 4 people.
4 people from the past, present, future. The main number one is going to have to be my brother.
Yeah.
Have to be family, or can it be anyone famous?
Literally anyone. Anybody. Famous, family, anyone.
I'd like to have Johnny Cash there.
Okay, 2.
You know, I'm my brother, Johnny Cash.
2 more.
My granddad.
Yeah.
You know, my mum's dad, because I never got to meet that man. And I've been told over the years I've got a lot of his traits.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd have to probably say my nan.
Nice.
You know,
everybody picks their nana.
Got to.
Yeah.
You know, I used to be a nana's boy when I was a kid.
Listen, mate, this is the first of hopefully a few. I appreciate you opening up. Appreciate having the conversation. Mate. I think there'll be a lot of people who can hear it and identify with it and resonate with it. And this is the beauty. This is the power of conversation, power of opening up and being vulnerable. And this is what we need to do more of.
Yeah.
So
people just need to understand as well. It's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, if you're vulnerable and you feel like you're vulnerable, just reach out.
Appreciate you, mate.
And you, mate. I appreciate it.